This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 161 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. This tip is sponsored by Equestrian Collections. Enjoy today's tip. I am Glenn the Geek from Lexington, Kentucky, and you're listening to Horse Tip Daily. We are back with Heather Blitz today with a tip from the latest dressage radio show. Heather is a professional dressage rider now living in Florida and has done many tips with us. You can find her tips by going to Horse Tip Daily and using the drop-down menu on the left side of the page. Just look for Heather Blitz. There you can listen to all of her tips right in a row. This is Heather's tip from episode 41 of the Dressage Radio Show. If you'd like to listen to the whole show, go to dressageradio.com. And we'll be back with Heather right after this message from Equestrian Collections. Well, those of you that listen to the eventing radio show on a regular basis know that we love Equestrian Collections. And right now, Equestrian Collections has all their spring merchandise coming in, along with all that cool new show stuff. Whether you're riding baby, novice, all the way up to 4-star, you're going to find what you need in show clothes for you and all the accoutrements for your horse you will find at equestriancollections.com. And guys, pay attention too, because they have one of the largest selection of men's apparel, and that's tough to find. But you can find it at Equestrian Collections. And also, if you use the coupon code HORSERADIO, all one word at checkout, then you'll get $10 off your next order of $120 or more. So for all your show riding needs this spring, check out equestriancollections.com.
Well, Heather, we're coming to our tip of the week, and it's something that I thought we should discuss. You know, you're all about biomechanics in the rider and the correct position and the correct use of muscles, and particularly core muscles. And the one thing that comes to mind, and I know I used to have to remind myself when I was riding, that it's very easy to get from that point where you're very mindful of how you use, say, core muscles, to a place where you're creating tension. So I wondered if we could talk a little bit about that and you explain to us how you moderate that, because we can watch videos of you riding and it's invisible. It's totally invisible. So you must have a way of keeping that balance, obviously.
Well, I have a lot of ways of keeping that balance, and it doesn't come down to, just a few points. There are so many things that are involved. It's sort of like there's so much of an iceberg underneath the surface of the water that when you learn how to control your body in certain ways and you do it long enough that it becomes second nature, you really don't think about it consciously anymore. And you might think of the things that are just like the iceberg above the water. You can think of a few things that I do to keep myself as I look in the saddle. But, the word tension is really confusing. I mean, if you think about muscles, they're either an individual muscle fiber is either on or off. And a muscle fiber can't have a halfway point. It's either on or off. It's just an electrical impulse. So when you talk about tension, the opposite of tension, I guess, or the opposite of muscle really being used would be a muscle being limp. And I certainly am not riding around on a horse that moves as big, especially as Paragon, with limp muscles. I think it's a good way to think about how to use your muscles is that you have to think about the forces of the horse's movement going up and forward and down, sometimes side to side, that whatever forces your horse has in them, you have to match those forces in your own body. If you don't, and you let your muscles, you say you don't want to be tense, so then if you go to the other extreme and you just let yourself be limp, then the horse will move your body around for you, and that's not going to make you match their forces. Of course, you can be totally still sitting on an object that doesn't move, but once the object moves, you've got to have muscle tone in order to really match the movement of the object you're sitting on. Tone is probably a better word to use then tension. Tension obviously comes with negative connotations. Tension can also be, I think, mental.
Yes.
If riders are tense because mentally they're unclear, they're not in a good focus zone, is where I think riders can get tense. I have seen riders that would be labeled as very stiff riders, where I have actually added muscle strength to them to make them appear or become more still, more looking relaxed. So, the whole problem of watching, whether it's a ballerina on stage or a dressage rider in the ring, is that how it looks is often not how it feels to do it. And you might see the picture, since you mentioned Paragon and me, you might watch the video and say, I look very relaxed. And I agree, it does. But I can guarantee you that I'm sweating when that ride is done. Even though that was a cold, windy day, my muscles are very on. It's because I control the movement in my body, and I just know how to match it to the movement in his body. It's different than following the motion, because that's more sort of being just toted along, where your horse is determining your body for you. And if you have your horse in a good organization and your body in a good organization, then you should be the one leading. Just like a dance partner, you want to be the one who's the lead partner, and normally it's the man leading and the woman is following. And the same with a horse and rider. The rider has to be the one leading the horse, even though the horse is supplying the effort and the work. But I think that's it can be easily misunderstood that muscles being on and toned is not a matter of stiffening against the movement. It's just a way to determine the movement in your body so that the horse doesn't do it to you. I mean, you could imagine if the horse determined your movement. What if your horse went in a little way that's not so organized? For instance, he's leaning to the outside, or he's got his balance too much on the forehand, his back isn't up, he's not starting by pushing with the hind legs, he's starting with pulling with the front legs instead. I mean, if you just follow the horse's movement, you have to be pretty darn sure that your horse's movement is correct if you want to follow along in his way. And if it's not, then he needs to follow your movement, which takes muscle tone. So that's a great question. And I get a lot of those questions as I teach in clinics and lessons with the same concerns, that riders don't want to get tense. So it's a great question, and I hope that maybe kind of clarifies it a little bit.
Again, you can hear the whole episode with Heather and Chris Stafford at dressageradio.com, episode 41. And don't forget to check out all the other great shows on the network at horseradionetwork.com. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, stay safe, everyone.